Hello, children. Welcome to the third lecture of our chapter number 16. Chapter number 16, that is economic liberalization and globalization. In the previous videos, in the previous two lectures videos, we have seen this all topics. This is the recap of our videos. In the first video, we had seen about the economic liberalization. We had seen the advantages and disadvantages of liberalization. We also saw the privatization and its disadvantages and advantages. And the third topic that we saw in the last two lectures was globalization and its advantages and disadvantages. Today, we are going to continue further and we are going to see the other aspects of the economic reforms that were introduced into India. So the topic that we are going to learn today is World Trade Organization, or WTO. What is it known into short? World Trade Organization was established on 1st July 1995. Remember this particular date. 1st January 1995. By the member nations of United Nations. Now we know that in 9th standard, United Nations was established on 24th October 1945. It was established on 24th October 1945 after the ending of the Second World War. Okay, after the Second World War ended, United Nations was established to maintain peace, and order into the world. Main thing was to maintain peace so that no country gets involved into fighting again. In 9th standard, we had also seen about the two world wars, first and World War Second. Okay, fine. Now we are talking about World Trade Organization, or WTO. Now this is the building of World Trade Organization. And it is situated into Geneva in Switzerland. The headquarter of WTO is in Geneva headquarter. Recently, in this January, it completed 25 years, and this is the logo of WTO, and this was the banner that was released on the 25th year of WTO. Okay, so if you count from 1995 to to 2020, it completed 25 years. Okay, so recently WTO completed 25 years. Now we are going to see what are the main objectives of it. Now from the name we can understand that this is an organization that works mainly for trade, okay, mainly for business, and that also at world level, world level. So let us see the functions and objective. What are the main objectives, and with what objectives World Trade Organization was formed? The main objectives say, first, to remove obstacle influencing global trade. Okay, obstacle means any barrier or any problem. Okay, if there are any problem related to global trade, Okay, whenever we say global trade here, we means export and import. We consider export and import. So if there are any obstacles, any hindrances, any problems, then the main objective of WTO is to remove those obstacles and to make this particular trade between two countries, okay, between two nations smoother. Okay, so the main objective is to remove the any obstacle that is hindering or that is stopping the global trade. Second is to remove protective policy giving to industries of country for foreign trade. Now every country has certain policies related to industries. Like we had already discussed in the previous chapter that 1991 before 1991 India had a very strict FDI policy. Now you know about FDI. Okay, so if there is any such policy which stops the trade between two country, it creates problem between two country, or it is not allowing any industry to be set up into any country, then that is looked into by WTO. WTO sees that such kind of policies are removed. All the member nations has to follow. Okay, all the member nations has to follow the policies of WTO. The third objective is to see to coordinate. See, to coordinate. Coordinate is to maintain a relation with global trade policy. There is a policy which is maintained by WTO. Okay, and as I told you, all the member nation has to follow policies. Okay, any policy of WTO. Okay, they have to follow the policy of WTO. So any global trade policy, any policy which is built up, which is created to see that the global trade is in a smoother way, happens in a smoother way, has to be followed by the member nation, and also to see that the economic policy related to that trade. The next is to solve the trade related dispute. Now, to solve the trade related dispute of any country, okay, right, sometime it happens that certain countries are in such a position that they are not allowing the other countries to carry on the trade from their area. So WTOC looks into such kind of problems and try to solve it. Okay, so these are the main four objectives of WTO. This can be asked into 2 marks question. Okay, now look at this picture. This all are the member nations. Those who are the member nations are denoted by this darker color, maroon color, while members who are right now, okay, they are denoted with this. So you can see that most of the area or most of the countries are the part of WTO, but you can see here that this particular nation, that is Russia, is still not a part of WTO. Okay, now why Russia was not part of WTO? Due to its policies, due to its traditions, and due to its own culture. Okay, let us see now further. Now, what are the main functions of WTO? Functions of WTO. First, to set up a required structure. Okay, now whenever there is a trade, now whenever I say trade, you have to understand export and import. So wherever there is a trade, they required a structure to be followed. Okay, and if that structure is not developed into that country, then it is the function, it is the work of WTO to implement that structure. Okay, to implement that structure for the agreement related to multinational trade. See, to see that the nation involves in such kind of agreement, well, multinational trade is followed. Multinational means trade with various nations. Trade with various nations. Okay, so it is the work of WTO to see that the structure is made, an agreement is signed or agreement is implemented into that particular country. Second, World Trade Organization plays a vital role for debate and negotiations of mutual trade. Now, if any country is not agreeing to the terms, then it is the work of WTO to see that, to convince that country for the trade, and that's why it also involves into debate and negotiations of multinational trade. So it also convinces countries of the world to be part of it and allow the international trade into the best possible way. Third, WTO encourages unbiased international trade. Say unbiased. Now you might have seen recently, due to the conflict between India and China. Okay, India and China. India have banned a lot of apps of China. Okay, now China have taken this matter into WTO. It says that as India is member of WTO and China is also member of WTO, and such kind of policies by India will influence the trade of apps that are made into China. Okay, that are made into China, and that's why you can see that it is the main task of WTO to see that there is no unbiased trade or there is no disputed trade in process. Next is different nations follow their own national policies. See, now this is, as I told you, the same is what is happening in India. It observes them and suggests required improvement. It also is a monitoring body. It also monitors the nation and suggest any required improvement if needed. Okay, so these are, you can say, the functions of WTO. Now what are the impacts of that on our country? What are the impacts? Okay, if we are part of WTO, then what is the impact of it? India is a member of WTO since its inception. Inception means starting. Since its starting, WTO, it was part of it. So what will be the impact of this organization of India, or which type of benefits would it India acquire, are discussed below. First, India's contribution in world trade was 0.5. It's 0.5% previously. Our trade have increased tremendously due to increase in international trade. As a result of India's contribution in world trade has increased to 1%. Now 1% is a lot of percentage on a international level. Okay, so you can see that India's uh, contribution was very less previously, but later on it increased a lot. Second, being a member of WTO, export of ready-made clothes of our country have increased. As India is part of it, India exports. Export is to send outside. Okay, export is to send to other nations. Okay, so India is exporting ready-made clothes, and India also exports agro products, okay, products related to agriculture, right? So as India is part of it, due to this, the export of ready-made clothes and export of agro product have increased to a larger extent. Due to increase in export, pressure on import have reduced. See, as I told you, export is to send outside, import is to take in. So due to the export, pressure on import have reduced and foreign investment increased in foreign exchange. Now what will happen when we will export something? We will get payment into dollars, okay, and this dollars will increase India's foreign exchange, okay, it will increase India's foreign exchange. Now when we buy things, we have to pay into again into dollars, okay, so that will reduce the foreign exchange of India. So if our exports are more than the imports, then we will get more dollars, okay, and it will be easier for us to pay for imports that we have done, and that's why it is a good sign that India is part of WTO, and due to it the pressure on import is released. Thus, as a member of WTO organization, India will not only get above mentioned benefits but also has to compel with some conditions. It has to follow certain conditions. It is especially dependent on how fast India increases its infrastructure facilities and developed countries treat India. Okay, it depends purely on the increasing infrastructure facilities of our nation. The better we develop, the faster we grow. So we'll keep till here into this particular video lecture.